Hi, I'm Julie and welcome to my channel. I'm a home grower of orchids in Perth Western Australia. I don't have a dedicated growing space. I have growing areas. In some of my areas I use humidifiers, and in all of my areas I have LED grow lights. So I grow high humidity plants, or the ones that need humidification, in my bedroom, and all the rest of them are grown in different areas throughout the house, the dining area, and as you can see, the corner of my lounge. So I'm a complete and total newbie. I have been growing orchids successfully since December of last year, when my husband gave me my first orchid that I didn't kill as an anniversary present. Our anniversary is New Year's Eve. So this was the first one I got. A little bit of background on Perth. Perth is a Mediterranean climate, or cold, wet winters. It is winter now. It is raining, and very hot, dry summers. So I have yet to grow a plant all the way through 1 year in my conditions. So I've decided to make a channel chronicling my experiences, any successes, and presumed many failures that I will have in learning to grow orchids. So like most of us over the last year, 2020 has not been very kind to the world. 2021 is not starting out so kind either. So I spent a lot of my free time during lockdown watching YouTube videos on orchid care. And I found a few that I really like to watch, and one that's most relevant to my growing conditions here in Perth, and that is Miss Orchid Girl, otherwise known as Danny, that most of us in the orchid YouTube world know and love quite well. Because I also am quite into phragmipediums, or slipper orchids, I love to follow Ed's Orchids. I highly suggest both of those YouTube channels, as well as Roger's Orchids is quite good as well. I've learned a lot from all three of these growers, as well as different internet researches and things of the nature. And so the first orchid that most people get into the hobby with is your standard phalenopsis. And you can see I have a lot of phalenopsis behind me. All of them are no IDs. I own 2 tagged phalenopsis that I got from the local orchid nursery here in Perth, Western Australia. That's Easy Grow Orchids. Both of those orchids were heavily discounted and were seedlings that were doing quite poorly. But we're going to talk about this first one. So this was my anniversary present from my husband, New Year's Eve, December of last year. And I did what you're supposed to do with orchids. I left the big, beautiful white flowers on it until they all fell off. And then I let the flower spike on it until it dried up. And at that point in time, I repotted it. Now, unfortunately, by that point in time, every single root that the plant had rotted and died. So I was a bit distraught, thinking, oh my goodness, I've killed yet another orchid. And then I remembered watching an episode of Miss Orchid Girl, Danny, on how to revive rootless orchids. So I followed her lead, and I did a few things a little bit different in that when I rehabbed them, I went ahead and put them in the standard potting mix that I was going to use, mostly because sphagnum moss is really quite difficult to find in Western Australia. So to plant something in pure sphagnum moss when that sphagnum moss can get spread around to a few other pottings seemed a bit difficult, and my thought was, if it lives, great. If it doesn't, well, then I've just killed another orchid. Fortunately, I managed not to kill it. It seems to be doing pretty good. So what I did do is I used these 2 bamboo screws and a little flower clip to hold them together to keep the plant upright, which I know is against its normal growing pattern, but because I grow indoors on shelves, I need them to be more upright and less hanging over the pot. So I've anchored this one this way. Now we can see that this plant doesn't look so bad. It's got good color to it. It's still got some floppy leaves, and there's mechanical damage to it. Unfortunately, a fan that I have circulating air in the growing space fell on it and I didn't realize it, and it did that damage. This leaf is perking up a bit more, but these two leaves are all very nice and perky. And if we can see very closely inside of there's a brand new little leaf coming up as well. And we've got basil keiki. Mother plant is growing one new root, and the keiki itself likewise is growing another root. And inside the pot we do have green healthy root system. So this one's recovering quite well. Very happy with that one. The thing that I have found with the corner deli, even though they do have lots of beautiful orchids, if you buy them and you do what the internet tells you to do, which is don't repot them until the flowers are spent, you will end up with something like this. Now, I was throwing these away before having found the YouTube channels, and particularly Miss Orchid Girl, as opposed to rehabilitating them. This one is doing just fine. One new leaf is growing, basil keiki, new root system, very happy with it. So I bought myself this one a few weeks later because, well, they're just so beautiful, I had to have them. These were some from the same shipment that came to the corner deli, so I bought these about 2 weeks apart, or actually my husband bought me this one. I bought this one 2 weeks later. By that time it had been in the corner deli for, I would say, about a month. The blooms were fading already, and I went ahead and left it because, again, the internet said leave the blooms on until, don't repot it till the blooms fall. And it was same scene act 2. This one had 1 or 2 roots left and was able to support itself in the pot, which is why I don't have the bamboo skewers holding it up. And it is also very nicely growing new roots, as you can see into there. And so far it has grown this new leaf, which is almost the size of the other leaves, so I'm thinking maybe it's not that set back, and I'm very happy with its progress. So I continued to buy a few more orchids through here and there from the corner deli, and slowly I've learned that when you buy from the corner deli, you need to wait until the day you get their shipment. You bring those orchids home and repot them. Case in point is this very beautiful one right here. Now this one, I was there the day that they were unloading the truck, saw it, fell in love with it. The blooms are spectacular. The leaves, as you can tell, are quite large. I suffered one bud that blasted, and that's hiding back here in between those two. But at the time, these last 4 blooms had not opened, so they have since opened. I've had this one now in bloom on this spike, repotted it with buds still forming, and now this has been going on for 2 months in bud. I'm starting to see that the first flowers are starting to get a little wilty and probably will be dropping, but I'm very happy in that all of these ones here I got from the corner deli and immediately brought them home and repotted them, and they do not in any way, shape, or form look like this one or that one has responded. So I was very hopeful and helpful and happy, and felt confident in my abilities with phalenopsis orchids, and felt happy purchasing them from the deli, thought I figured it out. So I purchased another couple from the deli. These were mini phalenopsis, and unfortunately the corner deli adopted a technique of spraying the leaves with leaf shine, and they used a vegetable oil-based leaf shine. And when I brought these ones home, the leaves were beautifully glossy but oily, very oily looking. And so I used a cotton pad and I tried to wipe the oil off as best I could, and a little bit of detergent in the pad, detergent water. And this one seemed okay. Now this one I bought a few weeks before I bought this one. And we can tell quite clearly the difference between the two. This one's leaf shine was sprayed on both the top and the underneath sides of the leaves. And the gentleman I bought it from sprayed it right there when I bought it. Oh, he said, we'll make it look pretty and last longer. It looked like he had sprayed olive oil on the plant. That was how oily it was. It did not look like it was sprayed with oil. It looked like it had been dipped into oil. So I brought it home and made a mild detergent soap washed with basically dish soap, and tried to wash it off with just cotton pad because I didn't want to get water in the crown. So far, it's not doing very good. So it's already lost a leaf from here. This leaf is now turning yellow and shriveling up and about to die. And now this one you can see is turning yellow. I don't have much hope for this plant. Watch out if you buy from corner delis. If it looks oily, pass on the plant because I don't think this one's going to make it. But so long as there's anything green on it, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and hope that it makes it through it. Now, what else can we talk about with growing Phalaenopsis orchids in your home in Perth, Western Australia? And if you're in a similar climate, this will probably work for you. So Perth has cold, rainy, wet winters and hot, dry summers, and spring and fall are somewhere in the mix between. Some of the days in summer can get scorchingly hot. Sometimes when you open your front door, it feels about the equivalent of opening your oven when you've been baking a cake, just that much heat. Other than that, wintertime is cold, gray, dank, wet, and rainy. Fairly good humidity in wintertime. I don't struggle too much with it in this grow space. On good rainy days, I manage to maintain a humidity level about 55–56%. And on non-rainy days so far in the fall and the winter, the worst we've gotten down to was 42%, but that was after I added a humidifier running in the bedroom where I have the more high humidity plants growing. When I first started monitoring humidity levels, the levels in the house were at 12%, but the house is fairly new construction, only built about 3 years ago. So the plaster walls, I think, still are maybe absorbing some of the ambient humidity from the air. Irregardless, it doesn't seem to bother too much the Phalaenopsises that I have growing here. They seem to be responding fine. Even the ones that suffered complete and total root loss damage are creating new roots, and the new roots that are growing appear to be quite healthy and quite happy. So that's growing Phalaenopsis orchids indoors in Perth, Western Australia under LED grow lights. Thank you for watching my channel. Please stay tuned. I plan on posting fortnightly. I do work still full-time hours now that we're no longer in lockdown. I have a few more experiments I'd like to do. I'd like to do a follow-up checkup on this little guy to see if he pulls through or if he finally gives a goat up and dies completely. So I'd like to try to do fortnightly videos for now, as the channel is brand new and this is also the first episode. So I do thank you for watching. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, appreciate it. And do have some patience with me as I'm new to YouTube as well as new to orchids. So both of these are a learning experience for me, and it will be fun to chronicle all of this with you guys on YouTube. With that, you guys have a lovely day, keep healthy and safe, and thank you.